I remember collapsing in bed every single night, feeling like I was already behind on tomorrow before it even started. My mind would race through everything I forgot to do, everything I needed to remember, and I'd fall asleep stressed out about the next day. But then I discovered that the secret to peaceful mornings actually happens the night before. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you my intentional evening routine that went from chaotic and busy to intentional and restorative. And the best part is it creates breathing room, not just for your evenings, but it carries on into the next day. The first thing I needed to change was not necessarily what I was doing in the evenings, but more of how I was thinking about my evenings. I stopped seeing evenings as something to rush through and get in bed, but instead I started viewing it as a time for sacred space to end my day well and start the next one with intention. This shift actually changed everything for me because when you're not rushing, you can actually be present. Now, the heart of this routine is what I like to call a brain dump. I make sure I intentionally sit down to do this. Then I take out my little notebook and I write down everything that's swirling around in my head. The first thing I like to do is reflect on my day. What went well? What felt hard? And what am I carrying today that I can release? Just getting these things out of my head and onto paper is an immediate breathing room and release. Then I move on and write tomorrow's to-do list. And this is not an overwhelming list of everything I could potentially get done, but just like 3 to 5 things that I need to do. This simple little practice means that I can go to bed not worried about tomorrow and knowing that tomorrow has a very simple structure. That way, when I wake up, I will not feel behind. After I've cleared my mind and head from everything that I was thinking about for tomorrow that has to get done, I then sit down and get out my gratitude journal and list out just 3 things I am grateful for this day. This isn't about toxic positivity. This could be anything from just being grateful that this hard day is over. And that is actually something I wrote yesterday because I had a very not so great last couple days and I was sitting down contemplating and thinking, what am I grateful for? And yes, I can think of a lot of little things, but my mind was consumed with my day and I was just like, you know what? I'm thankful I don't have to relive this day again. So by ending my day and just focusing on something positive shifts negativity out of my brain, which in then helps me sleep so much better at night and really shifts how I fall asleep. Instead of rehearsing tomorrow's stressors and tomorrow's to-do list, I can go to sleep thankful for the things that happened today. And then this was one of the harder things for me is putting my phone down. And I don't mean just down, but down in another room and walking away, not having my phone for the remainder of the evening. When I initially first started doing this, it was somewhat hard, but then the benefits paid off so greatly that it became really easy. And I'm going to share a video next week on my whole 30-day with no social media. Now, without my phone, I'm able to really hear my thoughts and process things and reflect better instead of just scrolling, which is such a temporary fix and honestly adds a lot of stress to my evenings without even noticing it. It causes more overwhelm and brain fog. So by clearing my phone out of my life in the evening has been so beneficial. But I don't just sit there and lollygag around and be lost in my thoughts. I had to replace what I did instead of my phone. So what I started doing was reading. And at first I started with like some, self-help things or things I could read that would help my work. But your brain does need a break from work. And that is when I started picking up novels from the library. So I have been reading so many novels in the evening. It is something I look forward to all day long where we can escape from our workload and our everyday life. And on the days I don't want to necessarily read my novels or I finished a novel, I've actually picked up 2 subscriptions that have added so much value to my life. And the first one is Daphne's Diary. I think it comes from the UK. And then I also love to read Magnolia by Joanna and Chip Gaines. It is incredible. But in the Daphne's Diary, I really enjoy reading cute little stories in there from Daphne herself, or some of her readers will send in a cute little story and she'll publish it in there. And these stories either are lighthearted and funny, or they're inspirational, or just really, really cute. So that is something that really sets the tone for my evening and gives me something to look forward to every night. If you are interested in Daphne's magazine, I will link a description below. This is not affiliated in any way or sponsored. I just really, really love Magnolia and Daphne. So I'll link those things if you want to check that out. Now, here's what this routine actually created. It created breathing room, not just in my schedule, in my heart, and in my life. And when you have those two things in a good place, everything else seems to go so much smoother and better. I stopped going to bed anxious about tomorrow because I already know how tomorrow will look. I stopped carrying the weight of unfinished thoughts because they were all put down on paper. And then I started falling asleep grateful instead of being stressed. But the biggest surprise is that my mornings became effortless. And that is because I combined this evening routine after I did what I'm going to show you in this video right here. Because when you close one day with intention, the next one is opened with clarity. I would challenge you and encourage you to try this just for 1 week and see if it helps. You don't need perfect timing or a fancy journal. You just need to give yourself permission to rest, reflect, and set intention for your day. I will see you next week.